Dallas Mavericks look like they just don't care right now. Those are the words of one Luka Doncic after the Dallas Mavericks take a 120-101 loss, their fourth consecutive loss, to drop the Mavs to 8-11 on the season. Kevin Gray of 105.3 The Fan. This is the Gray Area right here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel also right here at Kevin Gray Sports. Luka Doncic was a negative 27 in the plus-minus category as the Utah Jazz put another absolute beatdown on the Dallas Mavericks. They race out to a 37-12 lead at the end of the first quarter. And as we said the other night against the Utah Jazz, you sure can't win a basketball game in the first quarter or in the first half, but you sure can lose one. And that's exactly what happened again at the hands of the Utah Jazz. Joe Ingles came out hot from the three-point line as the Utah Jazz made a season-high 23-pointer, going 20 of 48 from the three-point line. Joe Ingles breaking John Stockton's all-time three-point record for Utah Jazz franchise history on his way to him scoring himself 10 points in that basketball game. But again, a guy in Mike Conley who was a plus 30 in the plus-minus category with 22 points. Bojan Bogdanovic had his best game of the season, going 7 of 11 from the three-point line, scoring 32 points on 10 of 16 from the field. This is a team in the Dallas Mavericks that simply did not have the energy, effort, or urgency or care, in the words of Luka Doncic, to get out there and try and get a win against a talented Utah Jazz basketball team. In fact, here is Luka Doncic, who is visibly upset and not happy about the way that the Mavericks not only played against the Utah Jazz, but how they've looked during this four-game losing streak. Needless to say, Luka ain't feeling it right now.
Yeah, hey, Luka. How would you evaluate y'all's play and effort tonight?
Terrible.
Can you elaborate?
There's really not much to say. I never felt like this, and we got to do something because this is not looking good. And, we got to step up and, just talk to each other and play way better than this. It's mostly effort.
Tim McMahon.
Luka, I think you might have just touched on this at the end there, but what are the things that need to change for you guys to play, at the level you expect to play?
I would say, right now it's looking like we don't care, honestly, if we win games or not, but it's got more energy, more effort, die for every ball, box out, everything. There's a lot of things that we can improve, and I know we will. And that's all that matters there.
So Luka Doncic using Charles Barkley's favorite word, terrible, as the way that the Mavs have played basketball, especially over these last four games. A team that is now 19th in defensive rating in the NBA, lacking accountability on the defensive end. And what's more concerning, what we saw against the Utah Jazz as they get ready to take on the Phoenix Suns on Saturday and then again on Monday, is how poorly Kristaps Porzingis is playing. At one point, this is a man who had more fouls for than he did points in this basketball game. And once he was removed, the Dallas Mavericks started playing a little bit of drop coverage to try and get some kind of defensive resistance on Rudy Gobert, who had another spectacular basketball game with 17 points and 12 rebounds. He was a plus 14 for the Utah Jazz. And Porzingis right now is playing with no confidence. He's playing with no accountability on the defensive end and is looking lost on the offensive end. His inability to score right now, his lack of defensive resistance inside the paint has put this Mavs team really in a tight spot right now. We know what kind of adversity that they've gone through so far this season, but now having most of their players back and Maxi Kleber appearing to be on his way back very soon, this team has a lot of issues right now. They can't defend. They can't shoot the ball from the three-point line as they go another pathetic 9 of 33 from downtown. That's 27% for the boys and girls out there. And this is a team that looks lost on both ends of the floor. And there's even been calls on social media and other places, well, this team has quit on Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle has lost his basketball team. There needs to be a new voice. All of these things are permeating social media among Mavs fans about what this team looks like. And I don't know necessarily if we are to that point yet. Remember, this is still a team that once it gets all of its players back, the opportunity to develop cohesion and continuity will still be there, and this team's goals is still out in front of them. But this is what happens when you have a team that has to deal with heightened expectations coming into a season and not really meeting those to the point where they're questioning whether or not the leader of this team, the head coach in this case, is not able to have a message that is resonating with his players. But more so than anything, and you'll hear this from Jalen Brunson here in just a moment, it's about the accountability that these players will put on themselves individually and collectively to make a statement about how they will play better on the defensive end of the basketball. In fact, I asked Jalen Brunson after the game, hey, Jalen, what in terms of accountability will you guys do individually and collectively to try and turn this thing around on the defensive end? Here's what Jalen Brunson had to say.
Hey, Jalen, how do you address the accountability on defense with this team going forward as not just individually, but collectively as a unit?
Starts with the players. Obviously, the coaches, they do a lot for us. They obviously are trying to put us in our positions, and then they are. But, I mean, with the guys on the court, they got to hold each other accountable. I mean, it's plain and simple. It starts with us, and it's not going to be easy, but it's going to have to get done.
So Jalen Brunson stating that it starts individually with them. The coaches are putting them in the best position to succeed, but they have to take the onus on themselves as a team and individually to be able to try and put forth the kind of effort in order to be able to stop teams. And that's really concerning also. It's amazing that I'm talking about the Dallas Mavericks in terms of the way that I talked about the Dallas Cowboys this past year. A lack of effort, a lack of defensive resistance, and a team that just looks confused and befuddled on the defensive side of the football, and in this case for the Mavericks, the basketball. This team should not be questioned. We should not be having to question effort for a basketball team, especially when the onus and the conversation throughout the offseason and going into this season was about getting better defensively, putting the focus on making sure that attention to detail was had on the defensive end, not missing assignments, not having miscommunication, not being able to be in a position where you're allowing a team in the Utah Jazz to get shots at will, running and picking and rolling the Mavericks to death as they did in the first game. In this game against the Utah Jazz, the Mavericks allowed Bojan Bogdanovic to go off in the way that he did. So this is really concerning when you start thinking about the totality of the Mavs, not from just an effort standpoint, an execution standpoint on the defensive end, but more so when no one else is scoring besides Luka Doncic, this team really struggles. Tim Hardaway did not play well. No one really played well. Tim Hardaway was a -13, only had 2 points in 26 minutes of play, going 1 of 5 from the field. We mentioned Kristaps Porzingis having a total of 11 points. Dorian Finney-Smith, who seems like was starting to find his legs a little bit in terms of shooting the three ball, going 3 of 8 from the three-point line. He is still getting his legs under him. But there is a myriad of issues with a team that's made up of a lot of second-round and undrafted players, a team that cannot score when Luka Doncic isn't the one creating and facilitating offense for himself and everybody else. The unicorn has gone completely missing, and then APB needs to be put out on him on where his game is and where his head is right now, because I got Knicks fans on Twitter trolling Mavs fans about the idea that the Knicks actually won the trade because of how Kristaps Porzingis is playing right now. It is not a good situation for the Dallas Mavericks, and we thought coming into this year, additions like a James Johnson would provide more toughness, more accountability on the defensive end. I asked James Johnson after the game also, what can this team do individually and collectively to be more accountable on the defensive end of the basketball? Here's what James Johnson had to say after the Utah Jazz blow out the Dallas Mavericks once again.
James, same question I'll pose to you that I posed to Jalen Brunson. How does this team, from an individual and a collective standpoint, address accountability on the defensive end of the basketball?
We just gotta be real with ourselves. You know what I mean, sometimes you don't hold yourself accountable. Sometimes teammates don't hold you accountable, and we can't have that.
So James Johnson, who was a little bit short with the media last night against the Utah Jazz, talking about the idea that they need to take the onus and accountability on themselves. Again, they're saying the right things. It's just not being executed on the basketball court. And that's the main problem. This isn't about X's and O's. This isn't about execution. This is about sheer desire and effort from a collection of individuals who are trying to meet expectations that have been put on them by individuals like us who saw what this team did in the bubble and did in the regular season last year, and thinking that the leap was going to come with respect to not only how Luka Doncic would continue to progress as a player, but these players around him getting better also, with a year of experience having gone through playoff situations and understanding what it takes to get to that particular level. And it seems like this team has regressed. And that's a problem in a Western Conference where you cannot afford to go on long and prolonged losing streaks in a 72-game season, when games mean that much more in a short period of time than they would in an 82-game regular season. So now the Dallas Mavericks, after another 19-point beatdown at the hands of the Utah Jazz, have some serious soul-searching to do at this point. Because right now, questions about effort, questions about heart, questions about the leadership at the top with Rick Carlisle and whether or not the message has been lost and is not resonating with this team. And more so than anything, they're playing in a tough and stacked Western Conference. Well, you say, Kevin, guess what? The calendar is about to turn from January to February, where at one point this team is going to play 11 of 13 games at home. And now they are potentially getting Maxi Kleber back here very soon to be able to help as a guy who is one of their best 3-and-D players, being able to shoot the ball from the three-point line, where the Dallas Mavericks are one of the worst teams in all of the NBA in shooting the three ball last year, after being a top 5 3-point shooting team last year with a historic offensive rating, the best in NBA history. Not only has this team regressed from a defensive standpoint, they have also regressed from an offensive standpoint, and that cannot be. Yes, you want to put more focus on the defensive end, but what we thought was the continuity that they were going to maintain offensively. Yeah, that ain't it right now. So until the Dallas Mavericks pull their heads out of their tails, this is a team that's going to struggle on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. But more importantly, this team needs to show effort. They need to show desire. They need to show heart and a willingness to compete on both ends of the floor. They are facing teams like the Phoenix Suns, who will compete on both ends of the floor in a tough stretch of basketball games. Well, yes, they will be at home for 11 of their next 13. They have to show a willingness to understand the message that these coaches are giving to them and execute it the way that they need to. The Dallas Mavericks fall 120-101, losing their 4th straight basketball game to fall to 8-11 on this season. Will this team find themselves pulling themselves collectively up together and displaying the accountability that they need to in order to get better going forward? Only time will tell. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this video right here on YouTube at Kevin Gray Sports. We'll talk to you later. Peace.